what do we finish on? It was how strongly things should interact, or like um how obvious like the musical changes are.
I think you'd be more expert on
I don't. So,
music.
but for instance, like whether would you advertise it as a music game or like a puzzle that does music? I mean, I think it would. In my mind, it's like the it would be easier to. It's an easy way to get good story. So, like in my kind of the way I'm imagining it is a music video is a story. I mean, ideally, it's. I mean, you can make music videos that aren't driven by story, um, but one of the powerful things is like in music videos, that's the point. You watch the music video and it's cool because you get like a story out of it and it's tied to the music.
Yeah.
So I imagine in interactive music videos in VR, it would hopefully be a similar thing. I don't know if that's actually how it would play out, where it's like it's you watch this music video or you participate in this music video because you want to enjoy this cool music. I guess it would
Cool story.
or the cool story that you create. Where, like for instance, in the first week, you weren't here the first week, but we did this whole thing where I discussed this pod idea. Pod being like one kind of set of interactions. Like this is how you change the music. The pod idea was there's a box of toys on the ground, and when you pick them up, they're playing music, and when you throw them super fast, they play different music, and they bounce around the room and like do kind of like they kind of shout their music at you as they pass. But like the faster they move, the music is different. But the key thing is every 4 measures or 8 measures, it kind of goes shoop back into the box and comes out and replays the motion that it did before. But every time it goes back into the box, the environment gets a little darker and a little scarier, and it's kind of this like horror story. So this is like during the discussion, we're like, ooh, what if we put this story on top of our music video? Whereas like we started like that way, we started with an idea for musical interaction, but then we put like an actual like story behind it. It was like this is and every time like it gets darker, it's scarier, the music gets weirder, and it keeps on replaying the same motions, but the music is like either more out of tune or it like the stems, and at the very last one, it's just silent, and then the toys. Each toy has its own horror story of how the child was killed. Ooh, spooky! Yeah. And it moves around like in the same direction, and they're like, and you can actually record it. Whereas like if it's moving faster, the kids are screaming their story at you as it passes by you.
I think that would be very popular because people like to solve these kind of puzzles. Yeah. So different players have their own interpretation of these evidences, and then they come together.
And you could just in this one particular example, we started with music. It's like, wouldn't it be cool? And then we actually developed a story to it, and people will probably want to play that again after they realize, oh my god, it's the story of these kids dying. That's what this whole thing is about. I want to listen to the kids more closely. And maybe they'll just have the music swirling around their head the entire thing before it shoots back in the box and then does it again because they really want to hear what the stories are. Yeah. And it draws people in, and that there's like a genuine kind of idea. So it's a music game in that like the main interactions are like you choose when to throw, where to throw, what kind of things you want to listen to, and you can put it back. But it's got a form to it, right? There's a form. The things happen and events happen, and you can control things in between them, but overall there's this big kind of sense of plot moving forward, I guess. But now, again, it would require a little bit of thought, but that's kind of, in my vision of music videos, it's like, it's not as much like a puzzle game as it is just like a 5-minute experience of like a song that you go through, but it's really cool and interesting, and it gives you kind of a story or a message, and it depends on how well it's written.
And to
right.
to speak to your story point, I have 2 ideas.
Okay,
so
please.
First, inspired by your like died kids story, let's say like we had a forest,
it's a forest.
Mysterious forest, and it's like alien forest.
Forest,
there lives a lot of strange animals or creatures.
Okay.
So say that you're fishing, but you're not fishing fishes. You're
Sure.
fishing these strange creatures.
Okay.
So if you throw out your fishing rod,
Right.
and then a strange creature just comes to you, and
Right.
there's the music or the sound playing
Of the fish kind of like coming out
of the strange creature.
Sure.
So there's both visual, like
Okay.
all these different kinds of.
So like the game is you're fishing.
Um,
Or like what's the well keep going, like
Yeah.
keep explaining it.
maybe fishing. I don't know.
Or like how do you change the music, I guess? How does the music change? I mean just in terms of I'm saying that would be a cool game, an interesting like story mode
the game
just for a game. But
the
like
music
how would you
changes,
put music?
So think about the frog, right?
Okay.
If you put a bunch of frogs here, they
Okay.
would just.
Okay. But like, are you in
sound.
control of the things that you're fishing for? Like you're in a forest, right? And it's really cool. So it's a good
maybe
environment.
fishing is not a
Yeah,
right
sure.
word. I should say.
How do you choose what
gathering.
happens? Are you gathering?
You're gathering, or you're just catching different creatures, and different creatures have their own sound, right?
Okay.
And then you're putting them.
So it's similar to like the box. Yeah. So
yeah,
it's like
very similar to the box, but it's kind of a exotic game because you see things that you have never seen.
Right. I'm actually interested because do you remember last week when I was talking about like spinning plates, where it's like you have to keep all the plates spinning? Yeah. Maybe one of the plates that you're trying to keep spinning is like you're trying to attract all these animals to come towards you, and you hold out like food or whatever, and like they're like interested and they come towards you, and like the music kind of changes with that, and but like if you stop and you're like, oh, but I also want to attract these bunnies, and he's like, oh, I have carrots and I'm going to attract these bunnies, and then you're like trying to juggle that. Maybe you could try.
Interesting.
Well, it's interesting, but like how would that develop? Is there like a story you have in mind? Like why do you want to attract these animals? Like what do they have?
My initial thought is because these animals have their own sounds, like the frogs.
Sure.
Yeah, so they kind of.
But like if you let an animal go and you're like, I don't care about that, what happens?
The music just changes.
Okay.
Right? Because it's like a band.
Right, so it's like a band. But it's like could it maybe get darker or something? Maybe the bunnies don't want to play anymore. They're like, well, man, you let the wolf go. I don't, or I don't, because it's interesting. Because like, what's at stake? Like, why do you keep playing? I mean, yeah, it's like this is a brainstorming session. This is exactly what I intended for like this section of.
Yeah. So maybe there is some treasures like in the forest.
Okay.
If you keep playing, you would get kind of rewards.
Maybe.
Yeah, if they.
Depending on how. Well, and this is like one of those examples where it's like a puzzle. It's a puzzle, but the music happens if you do well.
The music is just
right, where it's like how good are you at attracting these animals, and like the animals have their own like themes or whatever, and if you can attract all the animals, if you're really good at juggling all the items that you have to do to keep them attracted to you, then like the music changes and develops in more interesting ways, and like maybe the forest comes alive or something.
Comes alive is very
like,
cool. Maybe the challenge is not to attract as many animals as possible, but to make it as harmonious as possible, because some of them maybe don't fit together.
Right.
Anyway, so if you create a really nice ensemble of music, the forest comes alive and you would see treasures on the trees and whatever.
Right. I mean, because I'm imagining this as like, like there's like really cool animals, but like maybe the choice you have, just as a general kind of overview, the choice you have is which kind of animals you're like most interested in, and those animals have their own specific environment. I mean, because the way I'm imagining this is you could have this as, isn't there a game that is like trying to keep a forest happy, like keeping the environment like sustainable and whatever, is like, like your job is nature. You're trying to like make sure that like all these like bunnies live so that the food chain is preserved, even though you fully intend for them to be eaten. You're still trying to make it as like, but that's like that's a separate game. That's like a game that's like, like like, you know, city management game, ecosystem management game. But I guess that's different than, like, you could do that in not VR even. Like, but you could also try and do that in VR in terms of, like, you know, actions that you have to take to preserve some kind of harmony. I don't know.
I just don't get strange creatures and let them make strange sounds and sound good together.
Yeah, and just have them sound good together. But it's like, yeah, like what are you trying? I guess yeah. So like, what would the game be? Like, what's the story? Maybe as the story progresses,
Yeah,
there's like different challenges posed, and like,
a good question.
I don't know. Maybe you have to listen to the music if they get angry or something. You know, it's like you hear changes in the music. It's like, oh shit, they're walking away because they're bored or something. I don't know. Interesting.
Yeah, I need to create a conflict.
Yeah, what's the conflict? What are you trying to prevent from occurring?
Prevent from occurring?
Yeah.
Prevent the animals from going away. Like,
okay. But like, what happens if they go away?
The music stops. Then why do you need to keep playing?
Yeah, well, it's like, yeah, no, so the music stops, and then what happens? Like, is there kind of like a, maybe, I don't know, maybe the darkness, maybe the, like, animals are, like, emitting light.
Yeah.
And, like, you start off the experience where, like, the darkness of the forest is super spooky and scary, and it's like, it's about to kill you. Like, you're trapped in this forest, and like, oh my god, everything's about to kill you. And, you know, it's like super scary, but like, at the very beginning, like, you notice,
and you can't find your way out.
You can't find you're kind of trapped. Maybe a tree fell on you in the middle, like, you're riding on horseback, and a tree falls on you, you're stuck, and you're, like, stuck on the ground, trying to, like, and like, the darkness, and, like, maybe there's, like, evil monsters, and then this bunny crawls out of the tree, and it's, like glowing, right? And it, like, the darkness can't touch you because of this cute little bunny. And so you realize, oh my god, in order to survive, I have to keep all of these animals happy, and, like, maybe you have to last until the night, or something. And, like, you have to, like, feed this bunny so that it says, like, no, bunny, come back! And then, like, the bunny brings all of his friends, and then if you, like, accumulate a certain amount of bunnies or something, like, other animals start to come, and as, like, you get more successful at attracting animals, the forest begins to lighten up. And, like, if you reach a certain point where it's like, you have spun all these plates, and, like, the bunnies are happy, the foxes are happy, the woodland creatures are happy, then you can see more and more of the forest, and, like, the forest turns into, like, happy trees, you know? It's like, where it's like, everything is
educational.
I don't know. Where it's like, you know, it's like at the very beginning, it's like the game, it's like you're trying to tame the forest so you don't die before dawn. Right?
I think that makes much more sense.
Because then there's, like, a conflict. It's like, you have to keep these things here, otherwise the monsters that are over there are gonna come and attack me, right? So that might be interesting. That would be a little complicated to, like, pull off. You have to do a little more thought into, like, how you would connect a story so that, like, you desire to keep these things. But, you know, you could directly tie the music to your success, I guess. I mean, in this case, it would be okay. Like, yes, if you lose, then the music is, like, super, like, you know, like, oh no, the last bunny is leaving, and, like, dun 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 dun, and then, like, there's, I don't know, jump scare. But that's more like game than it is music video. But you could try and find a balance. You know, it's like, this is the reason you want to keep these animals here, because then it's a game. There's, like, a game in VR that has, like, interesting music to it. But I don't know, like, beyond keeping the animals here, maybe the way you keep the animals is by playing instruments or something.
But if each animal
making good music or something
makes their own music, wouldn't that just result in some interesting musical results?
Right. But it's like, it's not. I mean, it's cool, but it's not necessarily, like, interactive music video. I mean, like, it's like a game that has music to it, but it's less of a, like, look at me controlling the music. What if the way to attract animals was by doing specific effects on the music, or, like, you know, like, dude, I don't know, maybe.